questions? Anybody come up with any questions during the break, etc.? Ready to get into something new and exciting? Okay. We're going to talk a little bit right now about calling back showroom traffic. How many people? Yeah. Hang on to them and I'll collect them in a minute. Just everyone can hang on. We're going to talk a little bit about calling back showroom traffic. How many people call back showroom traffic? People that came to you, didn't buy, and you call them back? Let me ask you another question. When you call your customers back, how many of you ask them if they like the car? Can we do that? If they like the car?
After they bought?
And how many of us hear this? Well, yeah, we like the car, but we're still thinking about it. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
Happens quite a bit, doesn't it? And even if you're new in the business and you haven't had a lot of experience, it's going to happen to you quite a bit more if you keep taking that approach. Because what is I'm still thinking about it?
No, objection.
Is it an objection? Who says an objection?
Is it an excuse?
Is it an objection, really? It's an excuse. It's kind of an excuse, a smoke screen. An objection is something you can deal with, right? But I'm still thinking about it is really not something that you can deal with. What we need to do on these calls, we need to find a way where we can get out the real objection. Not, I'm still thinking about it, we're still deciding, we're going to sleep on it, right? And in order to prove the point here, we're going to take ourselves for a minute for an example all the way out of the car business. Okay? Let me ask you a question. How many people in this room have bought a house recently? Let's say within the last 6 months to a year. Anybody? Constantine, you did? About 3 years ago? Within the last few years? Maybe you guys did? Okay. Constantine, when you were looking for a house, about how many houses did you look at? About 6? Rich, how many did you look at?
Yeah, probably about 6.
About 6?
Yeah.
It's Keith or Kevin? Keith?
Between probably 10 and 15.
Between 10 and 15?
What think you?
Constantine, out of the 6 houses that you looked at, how many of them did you like?
About 2.
About 2? 2 realistically? About 2 to 3?
Once you found the model I wanted that you showed me, then we were set.
Okay, so you kind of just found one.
Yeah, once I found one, I knew I wanted.
Okay. The same thing happened to me. And how many did you buy? Constantine, you bought one, you bought one, you bought one, right? You only needed one, right? That's usually, I don't usually have to ask that question.
I'll take 3.
Same thing happened to me. Same thing happened to me. I bought a house about 6 months to a year ago. And I'm not a big shopper, but I looked at about 10 houses. Out of the 10 that I looked at, I liked about 4, but I only bought one also. Now, out of the 4 or 5 houses that I liked, if any of those real estate agents would have called me back and said, by the way, they didn't call me back. That was their first mistake.
They didn't?
The real estate agents, when I went to say to an open house, out of the 4 or 5 that I liked, nobody called me back. But if they would have called me back and they would have said, Leslie, you know that house you looked at on Saturday, did you like the house? Well, I would have said, yeah, I like the house, but I'm still thinking about it. It's on those 4 or 5 houses. Because I like the house, just like you hear from your customers. If you get a customer and you ask them, Mr. Customer, did you like the car? When you call him back, he says, yeah, I like the car. Well, sure he likes the car. Maybe he drove up in a 74 Pinto. He likes all the cars, right? Okay? So you're not really getting at anything by asking him if they like the car. Let's get back to the house example. If that real estate agent on those 4 or 5 houses would have called me up and said, Leslie, you know that house you looked at on Saturday? Is that the house that you would like to own? I would have said, if it wasn't, I would have said no. Because I'm not going to tell he or her, I'm not going to tell him or her that yes, that's the house I'd like to own if it's not. Right? Because they're going to hound me and they're going to try and put the deal together just like if you call them and you ask them if that's the car they'd like to own, they're not going to say yes if it's not. They're going to say no. And the agent simply would have had to ask me next, well, why not? Why not? Why not? And I would have said, number 1, I'm looking for a first floor laundry room. Number 2, I don't want a cathedral ceiling. And number 3, I need both the tub and the shower in the master bedroom suite. Okay? I have a direct objection. Okay? And that would be what they can find out from me by calling me back and asking me why that's not the house I want to own. Now we're talking about the Chicago area. If a real estate agent has a multiple listing service directory, how long would it take them just to look through and find find maybe 40 or 50 houses that would have the requirements that I'm looking for, right? They would have known what to do at that point with me as a customer, and I probably would have found a house that I even liked better than the one I eventually bought, but nobody did that. The same thing happens with your customers. When you call them back and ask them if they like the car, again, maybe they like all new cars. You need to ask them in that direct manner, Mr. Customer, is that the car that you want to own? And if it is not, he's going to say, no, it's not. Another reason you might want to find out what the real objection is, and this may or may not have happened on it. I know all of you are new in the business. It may or may not have happened to you yet, and you may have seen other salespeople do this. Okay, you got a customer in on Saturday, right? And on Monday, you're real busy, but you tell your used car manager, hey, we were $500. You don't tell them $500, you tell them $250. You're $500 apart on the deal. You go to your used car manager and you say, hey, Bill, you know that deal that I had on Saturday with that 86 Le Mans? I need $250. Okay, just $250 to give me a few more dollars on the car. I know I can put the deal together. So you get the used car manager to put $254 in the car, right? Then you go over to the new car manager and you say, hey, Jim, you know that deal? I was $250 apart. I got another $250. I was $500 apart. I got another $250 from the used car manager. If you can just come down another $250, I know I can put that deal together, okay? And you're all excited. You get the $250 from the used car manager. You get the $250 from the new car manager. You're there. You call the customer up and you say, Jim, I got great news for you. You know that car you're looking at Saturday? Hey, I got the $500. What do you say? And he says, well, that's great, but I'm still thinking about it. Now, does that ever happen? When they're in the showroom, you think it's the $500, but when you call them back, they tell you they're just thinking about it. They're still thinking about it. Well, you know what happened to that customer? After he left your dealership, he went down the street, and maybe he was looking at a Grand Am while he was at your store. He went down the street.
Excuse me one second. Carl? I need you for a moment. Thank you.
No problem. He went down the street, and now he's looking at a Ford Taurus. He's not even on your car anymore. You're trying to put together a deal that doesn't even exist. Because you know why? Price. We think it's price a lot of times. When a customer leaves, it's price, 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 price. We think it's price. But did you know price is about the 4th or 5th reason that a customer buys a car? It's not price. And when we call them up with that additional amount of money, who knows what's going to happen to him in the meantime? We've got to call and find out what the real objection is by asking him point blank, is that the car that you would like to own? You see how that can work out for you? Why we don't want to just, yeah. Okay.
We've already been introducing your inventory, the car that they were deciding about, all of that, just straight up on. They say no, and then you want to try and persuade them, well, see if we can find you another different vehicle. This is not going to get wrong. But they've already seen the inventory and said, no, I know what you guys have.
Okay, what you want to do is then start isolating it. We're going to get into this a little more, but you may want to ask them if there was one thing that would prevent you from purchasing that car, what would it be? And then if they say, well, I need a 4-door, okay, maybe, and there's a good chance that when they were in, if a lot of times we put blinders on, the customer says they want a 2-door, 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 so we just show them 2 doors, right? But then they go down the street and the salesperson without the blinders, and hopefully we're the ones that they run into, the ones without the blinders, show them some kind of a 4-door that they really like. That might be your only problem. And a lot of times, what do you sell? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got everything, right? Usually it's 1 or 2 things that are keeping them from buying that particular model that you were talking about. And usually they can bring the conversation around to involve some of your other models. You ask them, is that the car you'd like to own? What would be the one thing that would keep you from buying that car? And then it's going to come out and you can possibly switch them and make another appointment.
How do you overcome a situation like the customer went home? What is that? He was